On the surface, the Petersons were the quintessential California couple, living in a modest but well-kept home nestled in the peaceful streets of Modesto, where the sun cast long golden afternoons and the scent of freshly mown lawns filled the air. Scott Peterson, a man shaped by years of hard labor and grit, embodied the working-class American dream. He was quiet but affable, known for his easy smile and the kind of blue-collar resilience forged in factory floors and construction sites. Laci Peterson was the opposite, luminous, outgoing, a woman whose upbringing in a comfortable upper-middle-class family had instilled in her an air of sophistication and charm. Her bright eyes and warm laugh were the heart of any room she entered. Together, they seemed a perfect balance, Scott grounding Laci with his pragmatism, and Laci bringing light and hope to Scott's ambitions. Neighbors often admired the way they hosted weekend barbecues, the backyard alive with the hum of friendly chatter and clinking glasses. Children played under the sprawling oak tree as adults talked about vacations, future homes, and, most tenderly, the arrival of the Petersons' first child. Laci was glowing with the promise of new life, her pregnancy advancing, filling their home with an unspoken joy. Yet beneath the idyllic facade, not everything was as seamless as it appeared. Those closest to the couple began to notice subtle cracks. A passing tension in Scott's voice when asked about work. Laci's occasional quiet moments, her smiles sometimes edged with worry. Friends whispered about arguments that lasted long into the night, only to be quickly brushed aside the next day. Some noticed Scott's prolonged absences, evenings spent fishing alone rather than by Laci's side, even as her due date loomed. The class differences, though unspoken, cast shadows over their marriage. Scott's world was defined by hard physical work and modest expectations. Laci's was marked by refinement and social expectations that often seemed at odds with Scott's more rugged background. Friends on both sides wondered, could these differences pull them apart? Then came December 24th, 2002, the day that shattered the illusion. Laci vanished without a trace, leaving behind a community gripped by fear, confusion, and sorrow. Her absence was a silent scream through the neighborhood, an empty space in the chair at family dinners, a stillness that settled over her nursery, untouched and waiting. No one could understand how the vibrant woman, full of life and dreams, could simply disappear. Mothers clutching their children, neighbors holding vigils, police scouring the quiet streets, all desperate for answers that seemed increasingly out of reach. As questions mounted, the perfect life the Petersons once represented began to unravel, exposing the tension beneath the smiles and the chilling mystery that would grip the nation for years to come. December 24th, 2002, started like any other winter morning in Modesto. The crisp air carried the scent of pine and faint hints of holiday cheer. But by evening, the quiet suburban rhythm was shattered by a chilling reality. Laci Peterson was missing. Scott Peterson made the 911 call, his voice steady but tight, reporting that his wife had vanished. "She's not answering her phone. She didn't come home," he said. On the surface, his concern seemed genuine, a husband desperate to find his pregnant wife. But as hours turned into days, investigators noticed subtle inconsistencies in Scott's story that refused to be ignored. Laci had been 8 months pregnant, nearing the final weeks before becoming a mother. She was last seen the night before, reportedly leaving to visit her parents for Christmas Eve, but the timeline grew murky. Scott said he had gone fishing that day, alone, while Laci was at home. Neighbors recalled seeing him around the neighborhood, but nobody reported seeing Laci. The community rallied, organizing search parties, plastering posters with Laci's radiant face across town, and holding candlelight vigils that illuminated the darkness with hope. Yet hope was elusive. Detectives launched a thorough investigation. Every inch of the Peterson home was scrutinized. Forensic teams dusted for prints, searched for fibers, and looked for any trace of a struggle. The home was orderly, almost eerily so, as if the life that once filled it had been abruptly paused. Interviews with family, friends, and neighbors revealed a complicated picture. Some spoke of a loving couple, while others hinted at friction beneath the surface. There were whispered rumors, late-night arguments, unexplained absences, and a growing distance between Scott and Laci in the weeks before she disappeared. Detective Mike McGinnis, leading the case, sensed something was off. Scott's composure seemed rehearsed, his grief measured. When asked about his whereabouts, Scott was precise yet evasive, often repeating phrases without elaboration. Investigators pored over phone records and fishing logs, searching for discrepancies. As days dragged on, tension mounted in the community and the media. News outlets descended, turning a local tragedy into a national spectacle. The story of the young, pregnant woman who vanished without a trace captivated and disturbed viewers. But beneath the media frenzy, the hard work of the investigation unfolded in grim detail. Clues began to surface: a suspicious purchase of handcuffs, a boat slip rental paid in cash, a pair of wet jeans found near the shoreline. Each detail added a layer of unease. Police widened their search to San Francisco Bay, using sonar and divers to comb the waters. Scott Peterson's fishing trips, once casual and routine, now became central to the inquiry. What was he doing alone on the water while his wife was missing? Why was there no sign of Laci's car or personal belongings? The shadows lengthened over the case as investigators followed leads that pointed not to an innocent disappearance, but to something darker, a chilling mystery that refused to unravel easily. As the search for Laci Peterson stretched into weeks, the pressure on law enforcement to uncover the truth mounted exponentially. The case had captured the nation's attention, and every detail, no matter how small, was dissected by detectives, forensic experts, and an increasingly skeptical public. The turning point in the investigation came when forensic teams began to uncover evidence that challenged the story Scott Peterson had carefully woven. Investigators revisited the Peterson home and the surrounding areas with renewed scrutiny. One of the most crucial discoveries was a pair of wet jeans found near a boat dock, close to the San Francisco Bay, Scott's fishing spot on the day Laci vanished. DNA testing confirmed the jeans belonged to Scott, but no trace of Laci was found on them. More troubling was the discovery of handcuffs Scott had reportedly purchased weeks before, a detail he had not initially disclosed. Detectives questioned why a man expecting a child would be buying restraints. Under mounting pressure, Scott's demeanor shifted. Interrogations became a psychological chess game. Detective Mike McGinnis recalled Scott's responses: calm, sometimes rehearsed, always measured, but never fully open. He wanted to control the narrative, McGinnis would later say, but the evidence was closing in. The forensic team expanded their scope to include soil samples, fiber analysis, and watercraft logs. Fibers matching the carpet from the Peterson home were found on a boat rented by Scott, and the soil composition near the shorelines matched traces found on his clothing. Each piece painted a picture of someone intimately connected to the locations under investigation. Meanwhile, the timeline of Scott's movements on December 24th was pieced together through phone records and witness statements. Scott claimed to have been fishing all afternoon, but several witnesses contradicted the exact timing, and surveillance cameras failed to catch the boat leaving at the suggested time. In the interrogation room, detectives employed a tactic designed to break Scott's facade. They presented him with the mounting evidence: the handcuffs, the fibers, the boat slip receipt. For hours, Scott held his ground, but cracks began to show. His eyes flickered with a momentary panic when questioned about the wet jeans. The detectives pressed on, aware that the smallest detail could trigger a confession or reveal a fatal lie. Meanwhile, public fascination grew, and the media intensified its coverage, painting Scott alternately as grieving husband and prime suspect. As for Laci's family, the waiting was unbearable. Every day without answers deepened their pain, yet also steeled their resolve to see justice done. The investigation, clinical and relentless, was their only hope. Unseen by the public eye, the scientific work of forensic specialists, analyzing every thread, every fingerprint, every drop of water, became the battleground where truth and deception collided. The cold facts began to dismantle the narrative of innocence, inch by inch. As winter melted into spring, the relentless investigation reached a pivotal moment. The mounting weight of evidence, the fibers, the handcuffs, the contradictions in Scott Peterson's story pressed down like a vice. The facade of the grieving husband began to crumble. One chilly April evening, under the harsh glare of the interrogation room's fluorescent lights, Scott Peterson sat alone with detectives. Hours of questioning had worn him thin. The room was heavy with silence, broken only by the steady ticking of a clock and the occasional rustle of papers. Detective McGinnis leaned forward, voice calm but unyielding. "Scott, the evidence doesn't lie. We know about the fishing trip, the handcuffs, the boat rental. We know what happened to Laci. It's time to tell the truth." For a long moment, Scott's eyes were vacant, flickering between defiance and exhaustion. Then, in a voice stripped of emotion, he confessed. He admitted to taking Laci's life, painting a cold, detached picture that shocked even the most seasoned officers. His words were clinical, devoid of remorse, as if speaking about a distant event rather than a human tragedy. The betrayal was complete. The man who promised to protect and cherish had become the architect of unspeakable loss. News of the confession exploded across media outlets nationwide. The public, once divided between sympathy and suspicion, now faced a chilling reality. Scott Peterson was no longer just a suspect. He was a killer. The courtroom became a stage for heartbreak and fury. Laci's family bore the unbearable weight of loss, their grief laid bare for the world to see. Tears mingled with clenched jaws as they listened to the details of the crime, each revelation reopening fresh wounds. Scott's defense attempted to cast doubt, questioning forensic methods, suggesting alternative scenarios. But the mountain of evidence was insurmountable. Witnesses testified to the inconsistencies, and expert analysts detailed the painstaking scientific work that tied Scott irrevocably to the crime. Throughout the trial, the courtroom was thick with tension. Every word, every gesture, every silence echoed with the profound consequences of betrayal. Laci's memory was honored by those who refused to let her story fade into darkness. For the jurors, the decision was agonizing yet clear. Scott Peterson was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to death. The verdict echoed beyond the courtroom walls, a somber reminder of justice served, but at a devastating cost. Beyond the legal resolution, the emotional toll endured. Laci's family grappled with the paradox of justice and loss, trying to piece together a shattered life while carrying the burden of a public tragedy. Friends and neighbors, too, faced uncomfortable questions about trust and appearances. How well do we really know those closest to us? What secrets lurk beneath the surface of seemingly perfect lives? The Peterson case became a catalyst for broader conversations about domestic violence, hidden struggles, and the fragile veneer of the American dream. It underscored the urgency of listening to the whispers beneath the smiles. The courtroom lights dimmed, the verdict delivered, and the world moved on, or so it seemed. But for those left behind, the echoes of the Scott Peterson case reverberated long after the gavel struck. Laci's family faced an unfathomable void. The joyous anticipation of a new life had been shattered, replaced by a grief so profound it defied words. Each holiday, each birthday, became a stark reminder of what was lost. Her nursery, once a symbol of hope, remained untouched, a silent testament to dreams never realized. Healing was not linear. It was a painstaking journey through grief, anger, and despair. Family members leaned on one another, drawing strength from shared memories and the unwavering belief that Laci's life and her story must endure beyond tragedy. Community support poured in. Vigils, memorials, and foundations were established in Laci's name, transforming pain into purpose. Her story ignited crucial conversations about domestic violence, warning signs, and the urgent need for vigilance even when life seems perfect. Yet beneath the collective mourning lingered uncomfortable questions that refused to fade. How could someone so close, Scott Peterson, conceal such darkness? Were there signs missed, voices unheard? The dissonance between appearance and reality haunted friends, neighbors, and the nation alike. The media's relentless spotlight had both illuminated and obscured truths. Sensational headlines and public judgment often eclipsed the nuanced realities of domestic turmoil. The case forced society to confront uncomfortable truths about trust, power, and the vulnerability masked by social facades. For the legal system, the Peterson case was a sobering reminder of the delicate balance between justice and humanity. The death sentence delivered a measure of closure but could not erase the scars etched into countless lives. Years later, the questions remain. How many perfect lives conceal turmoil? What responsibility do communities hold to notice and intervene? And most hauntingly, how do those left behind find peace amid loss so profound? The Peterson story stands as both a warning and a call to empathy. Beneath the surface of smiles and success, darkness can fester unnoticed. But through remembrance, awareness, and compassion, there lies hope for healing and a safer future. If there is one lesson to carry forward, it is this: no life is as flawless as it appears, and the shadows behind closed doors demand our attention. Take the time to listen to the whispered fears of loved ones, the subtle changes in behavior, the silent cries for help. Support those struggling in silence, and never dismiss the warning signs of domestic abuse. Community vigilance, education, and open dialogue are essential tools in preventing tragedies like Laci's. Reach out to local support organizations, advocate for stronger protections, and be a voice for those who cannot speak. Together, we can break the cycle of violence, challenge the facades, and build a society where every person's safety and dignity are upheld, not just in public, but in the quietest corners of their lives. Remember Laci Peterson, not only as a victim, but as a beacon urging us all toward awareness, action, and compassion.